Per Chav Aleph, and I'm taking out of a sugya here, and I apologize. But so here he speaks about the. We went through a number of prakim to explain that the whole inyan of tshuva is to align the nefesh with the ruach with the neshama. The whole thing has to be aligned. That's the avodas ha'adam. But then he says here. V'ha'adam hayasher ha'oved ha'amiti. Adam hayasher ha'oved ha'amiti. That's why I figured you'll understand this better.
Yeah, right.
Adam hayasher ha'oved ha'amiti lo yifna daitoi u'machshavtoi be'es havodasoi lo yisparach shmoi afilu kedei la'alois l'tayar gufoi v'nafshoi. The kavana of the avoda of a person should not be to be matayar himself. That shouldn't be your kavana. Rather, the kavana be sheyala toyer machshavtei v'kavanasai ufana lemala l'tikun v'taras ha'lamis hakdoshim. Okay, so the whole hakdama is that every time a person learns Torah, every time a person davens, you're being masakin ha'lamis. Specifically, bria, yitzira, al yidei asiyah. And the proper way to do avodah is to have kavana to be mataher the oilamos above us and to be mataher the nefesh, ruach, and neshama. So he explains that until now I was speaking about tshuva. That's the one thing you can do for yourself, tshuva. But when it comes to tefillah, when it comes to Torah, when it comes to tikkun, so the tikkun should be for the oilamos elyonis. So he brings here, Rabbi brings here that the Pinkasei Shalachad Migdalei Hadar, who we thought was Rav Hutner, somebody told me, but then Rabbi points out it's probably Rav Cook. He says, Nimsa Kasev Shesugya Zu. This sugya, Ha'imerkaz Havoida Hu Tikkun Adam or Tikkun Oilamos. What's the kavan of a person? Tikkun Adam or Tikkun Oilamos? Hu Yesoida Machlaikis Shehekim Hagra Ala Chasidim. This is the Iker Machlaikis between the Misnagdim and the Chasidim. Heim hemiduli iker shleimus hayachid. Ilu agra savar shetikun klal olamos hu ha'ikar. So to me, when we learned this, the Pashto says it was ipcha mistavra, like Chassidim are saying l'shem yichud and misakin and lamosh shem yudkei v'vavkei, all kinds of tikkun olamos, and allegedly the non-Chassidim are thinking about themselves. So, okay, so we should all think about the olamos, but he's saying here, and everyone seems to understand it except for me, that the Iker Tikkun, the Iker Kavana of davening is Tikkun olamos, says the Gra, as opposed to the Das HaChasidim, which hold that the Iker Tikkun is the Taras Atzmai. So it kind of fits in that you see Chassidim are more makpid on mikvah, they're more makpid on Tara, but you would think that the Chassidim would be more Kabbalistic in the sense of being Misakin Oilamos, and we would be more into Tikkun Atzmai. So he says that, and Agav, as you read further in the Nefesh Hachaim, which we did not do, it's very clear that he's very, very anti any kavana for yourself, not that you should have parnasa, not think about your parnasa, that's not what he means. But any type of tikkun in the world of Asiya is wrong, and the only tikkun we should be thinking about making is in higher worlds. So, I'm stuck on this.
You know, there's a story about this child who gets kicked out of school because he was cheating. So his parents are very irate, and they come and they confront the teacher. How dare you say our child was teaching? He said, I know your child was cheating. So they say, well, how do you know that? Well, because I gave them the test, and your son had exactly the same answers as the student next to him. So it's clear he was copying. So they said, well, how do you know that he was copying from him? Maybe the other child was copying from my son. So he said, no, it's impossible, because there was one answer where the student next to him wrote, I don't know, and your son wrote, I don't know either.
Okay, Shirkaya.
I wouldn't be very much inclined to believe that the thing would go the other way. As you said, I don't know. Yitzhak, you have any sense about what? Come on. What?
Rabbi, this is what we said at the beginning. Rabbi asked, and I raised my hand because to me it seemed pashut.
The way he's saying
The way he
this.
says it, which is what? What I'm doing is what I'm doing. The intent in what I'm doing is to affect something. So what I'm doing is in my control, is in the oil of a seer. That's what I'm doing. That's what I can do. But what I'm trying to affect with that is the oil above. I think that's what he's saying.
And the Hasidim?
And the Hasidim are intending to touch and affect the things above.
No.
In order.
But he's saying that.
Forget.
He's saying that their focus is on themselves, their own strengths.
That's not a selfish thing.
I don't think it's a question of being selfish. I think it's like, what's the matter of Torah? I think it's much more fundamental. That's why I'm stuck on it. Very fundamental.
It's all talking about Tzarech Kavod. It's all.
Tzarech Kavod. What's the matter of Torah? Why are we here? Why are we doing mitzvahs? Why daven? Why go to shul? So here's the chakira. Is the pshat? Nothing is selfish here. Don't talk about selfish. Is the pshat that we're supposed to be b'tzaka to make the world a better place to live in? Make the world a better place to live in. Make yourself a holier person. Kedoshim to you. That's what I see as I always thought was pashut of pshat. Olam Yisrael, who knows what's going on in the Olam Yisrael? He's saying that the Gra was against that. What I just said. The Gra was against this. The Gra said that if you're doing mitzvahs, so you're learning Torah, to be masakin the bria in this world, to be masakin yourself, to make yourself a more chashuv a person, whatever, to be kadosh, so that's already wrong. See, I'm just guessing that what was the Vilna Gaon worried about? He was worried about people becoming too holy. Like, in other words, like if you're masakin, so I'm masakin a little bit, you're masakin a little bit more. The Rebbe's masakin in Janssen, so he becomes like something yotze min haklal, which is maybe a more Hasidic way of looking at a tzaddik. But the Gra said no, like we're not. Nobody's being masakin themselves, or we're Kadosh Baruch Hu shluchim in this world to be masakin the oilamos oyonim. That's what we're here for. If I could be marichin it a little bit, he goes on to say that the Ramchal says it also. The Ramchal says that after Adam and Chava did the chet, so they had a chance to be masak in the world, and by the time it got to the Dor HaPlaga, they messed up. Nispala saw some. The Gemara says they couldn't be masak in the world anymore. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought Avram Avinu. So by the case of Noach, the Dor HaMabul, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu did a restart on the whole world. So he said, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's not any longer about the Goyim, if you will. Now it's about Avram Avinu. He created Avram Avinu. That was the restart. That was the Mabul, that now nobody's important. Just what Avram Avinu does, just what his children do, just what we do, just what those who stood at Har Sinai do. So Ramchal's Meirich in this Inyan of in Perek Dal Chilul Beis, Perek Dal Derech Hashem, and Das Tfunos, and so is the Nefesh Hachaim. So it means to say the whole tikkun is up to us. The whole tikkun is up to us. Now, what is that tikkun? In other words, to undo the damage that Adam and Chava did in the Olamus Oyonim and the whole Bria and the whole Tachlis Bria, as opposed to me becoming a hush of a person. Now, so as I said, don't do it to become a hush of a person. Now, what I wanted to confirm is my ignorance. I didn't know that that's what the Hasidim were doing to become a hush of a person, become a holy person. Sounds like you're agreeing with me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a kash on Rav Kook. Okay, yeah.
If the God said that a person that learns Torah spends his whole life doing and has not worked on his midah, certainly he's going to get a lot of credit for the Torah, He hasn't even begun to start what his purpose is here. I've never heard what the Rabbi is talking about before. It would seem, if that's the purpose, and we're all splinters and shards of different neshamot, and one of us is stingy, one of us has anger, so I have to be generous, and I have to be patient. So if my stinginess, which has nothing to do with anybody in this room, I need to purify myself in a Hasidish way, I gotta work on myself. If in my davening, I'm davening, you gotta get me out of the stinginess, you gotta help. But I give an amount, I should put another zero at the end. Even what I gave, I can't sleep for 3 days, what I just gave. I need help. It would almost seem like I could purify myself working on myself. And when I'm doing my tefillah, ultimately, at the end of the day, I hope Abba and Shemayim is looking down and being proud and saying, I gave him stinginess. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. At this point, I'm assuming if I have to affect there, it's them looking back and going, Rafi's working on his mission. Jealousy, that's not his thing. Talking too much, it took a lot to me to raise my hand.
You're saying what he's calling a Hasidiship shot. Right?
I'm saying both. If you say I have to cure myself and jump in the mikveh, then that means I have to take care of myself. I need to have my wife to say, listen, am I giving enough here? There's 2 guys there with their hands out. Why'd you give him? Thank you. I need to work on myself. But when I'm davening, I need to also affect that change. I think when I step back 3 steps, I'm supposed to be a different person. So am I a different person? Or when I turned around and looked, there's somebody standing behind me and I'm going, what's going on here?
See, I think what you're saying is exactly what he's going against. I mean, what you're saying is, at the end of the day, b'shvili nivra olam, it all comes down to me. I got to get rid of my stinginess. I need to get rid of my kas, and it's going to affect me from the olos hayana. But it's all about me. I'm the center, and that seems to be what the Gra was against. The Gra was like, why are you the center? You're a shaliach Hashem. I mean, again, I don't know where the Gra says this. I don't know where the Baal Shem Tov says. I don't know. I'm just saying it seems to be that the Hakira is. Let's put it that way. That he's saying that it's, who said it's all about you? What are you so worried about your stinginess? What are you so worried about worry about the fact that the world, Mashiach has to come. Worry about the fact there has to be a tikkun olam, and that you're a shaliach Hashem for the betterment of the tachlis of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in creating the world.
But my nature is not to fix myself. I want to be stingy. I'm doing what the Gra said. He says you have something to work on. Obviously you've got the problem. You asked 20 people and they said you are a type 1. Okay, I got
Why is that what the Gra said? The Gra says that you should not be mechavin.
Now work on your midot. That wasn't the main reason.
Right. No, you should not be mechavin. You should be mechavin to the oilamos, only to the oilamos elyonim.
But didn't we have an...
I thought the Gra said that if you are an older Torah in the world, you're the nicest person in the world, it's very nice. If you haven't worked on your midot, you haven't even started your purpose here. That's what I thought. I got it all wrong.
So let me take it a step further. I think I have to be mahapathy a little bit.
Isn't the whole alignment thing we've been talking about starting on top? The glass blower blows it through, but the destination is the glass.
Right.
So therefore, the effort is up there, but
even if it's personal.
Even if it's personal, it starts up there, but it comes down, and then eventually the glass is created. But if there's no alignment, then it's not going to happen. So what alignment with what? It's not going up, it starts up there. So the Gra could be talking about reaching up there, but it's no conflict, it's no contradiction.
It's certainly going to affect what happens
here.
So, like, he goes further, let's take it a little further, this is just my segue here. He goes further and he says, he's Myrich, V'zu haisa, if you have the Sefer L'Ganzar, V'zu haisa, this is like every word here is chidushim nifloim, in lamdus, if you will. Zu haisa, gam kol inyan avodasim shel avos. You want to understand the avos. Avos means Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. You want to understand the avos, this was their avodah. B'chol hatzadikim arishayin, mishikayim es haTorah koydem nesinas. Okay, so we all know that Avram Avinu was Makayim es haTorah before it was given. Noach was Mekayim es haTorah before it was given, because Hashem told him, you should take from the Behema HaTorah so many and the Behema HaTmei so many. Okay, very nice. How do I know? Parsha Shmini didn't happen yet. So how did I know what's the Behema HaTorah so many? There it says he knew. He knew. Noach knew. Avraham Avinu knew. Yitzchak knew. They knew. Well, Amru, it says in Yoma, Yikayim Avraham Avinu's Kol HaTorah. Fil Erev Tavshilin means even in Rabbanans he kept. Loish, so this is Nefesh Hachaim's Taitshir. Loish, Yumitzuvim Voice and Kaf Mitzad Adin. They had no din. There's no din in. So the Dim Kain Loi Hayim Amidin Chasashom Al Daitim Vasagasam Avshi Sigush Levinian Church Nishwasa Ha'achrech Lem Lavar L'Shanais. If there would have been a din in the time of Yaakov Avinu, our parsha, if there would have been a din that, look, you're not allowed to marry two sisters, period, that's the law. You're not allowed to, it's not a good idea, that's the law. You're not allowed to marry two sisters. Once it's a din, Yaakov Avinu would not have had any leeway to marry two sisters. So so the answer is there was no din. What was it? It was what he calls a hasaga. Hasaga, no idea. Hasaga. So he had a hasaga, a das and a hasaga, that, you know what, I'm going to marry these two sisters. By the way, not just that he married two sisters, bad enough, Rachel and Leah. Mesiras Nefesh to marry two sisters. I mean, he stayed there and he worked for Lavan and another 7 years and another 7 years. He was Mesiras Nefesh to do this Havera of marrying two sisters. Mesiras Nefesh, and that's the whole parsha of the Torah. The whole Vayetze is the Mesiras Nefesh of doing something which we're not allowed to do. Why? Because there was no din. Because if there was a din, there would be no wiggle space here for him to change it. But Afshi Sigu, he would not have changed it. But because there was no din, and in their hasaga, let's take Yaakov Avinu, they had an opportunity to be masakin something, to do a repair under the hood. They had an ability to do a repair in Shamayim. And that's why he did that. He took a license to do this because this was his Ikar Avodah. His Ikar Avodah was to make the world a stronger place and a better place and make the whole pipeline work better. So to him, he wasn't bound by the rules. But what you see from him is that if you're not bound by the rules, then what's the rule? The rule is that you do tikkunim in Shamayim. And that's why Yaakov Avinu, who kept the whole Torah, still did tikkunim and Shamayim. So he brings up, it's an interesting upside down raya, a raya from here, that the Ikar Avodah is to make tikkunim and Shamayim, like Yaakov Avinu did, like Amram did, who married Yocheved, v'chulu, so many different things that they, Avram Avinu was a basar b'chalav there, like when the Orchim came. There's so many different things that they did wrong because they were at the essence of the purpose of man, the purpose of Jews, the purpose of mitzvah, purpose of Torah, and sometimes that requires, let's call it Avera Lishma. And they didn't have the Hagbalah of Dinim. It's a very deep thing. So what do we learn from it? So clear, we can't go ahead and change things. He says even Yaakov will be the one to change things. But L'chol HaPachos, what you can learn from the Avos is the purpose, the raison d'etre of my avodah. That's what you can learn from the Avos. That it's all about ad kedei kach, that if it's necessary to marry two sisters, I'll marry two sisters. So it's what shekulam b'toyer sichlam, they were wanting to be masakin hatikunim hanoyroim anasim b'chol mitzvah b'ha'olamos b'koychos ha'elyonim v'tachtonim v'ha'pegomim ha'gdolim v'ha'chorban v'ha'arisa chas v'shalom sheyigru b'hem eloi im lo yikaymum v'chein, and therefore Noach hikrev dafke min ha'behema ha'torah. Why did Noach dafke bring kosher animals when there was no such thing as kosher animals? It's not only about doing an avera, it's about tikkunim. He understood these animals well. He understood the tahara of the animals. Look, Noach was saving the world, right? Noach was creating the world after him. He wanted to create it with a certain amount of tahara. What's fascinating about it is he also wanted there to be a certain amount of tumah in the world. There had to be some type of a balance here, which is interesting. There had to be some kind of a klipa, but the ikar should be the kedusha. So let's look at like it's not just Noach was a preservationist or just let's save the world. We need 7 deers and 2 lions. No, it was he's remaking the world in an oifen of tahara. And therefore, he had it clear in his mind. He was able to look at an animal and say, "You're in. You're out. You die with the mabul." So that was Avram Avinu's. Noach's contribution. Again, he didn't do anything wrong, Noach. But you see that the whole mahalach, the whole derech of the Rishonim, of the tzaddikim Rishonim, Noach Tzaddik was all about being masak in the world. You see, I think that Hashem created the world. I always make this point. If you open any Kabbalah sefer, the Arizal, the Ramchal, the Zayar itself, the Sefer HaYetzirah, any Kabbalah sefer, the first 4 pages, which is usually about as far as I get, deal with why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu create the world. That's what it's all dealing with, and the rest is all appears. It gets very technical and igulim and all kinds of things, but that's the point of it. So it means to say as follows, that if we're here in the world, like according to what he's saying here, which is to me a mind-blowing chiddush, according to what he's saying over here, stop thinking about yourself. Even stop thinking about your kas, and stop thinking about stop thinking about our stinginess, and stop thinking about all these things, and start thinking about the world. It's not that it's selfish. Selfish is too harsh of a word. What do you mean? I want to be a tzaddik. What's wrong with being a tzaddik? Nothing. I'm trying to be besaka myself. I wonder if one of the ployim of history is that when Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, Olav Shalom, introduced the Musar movement into the yeshivas, there was huge resistance. They didn't want it. They threw it out. No yeshivas are going to. It wasn't until he was Matzliach with Sabatkin, Navardik, way later. It was way later that there was some in Brisk, which is the Gra, Chaim Elojin, Ad Hayom Hazeh. There's no. You're not going to find Erchas Sadikim in there. It's not going to happen. There's no Musar. Why? Because that's nice. In other words, nice to be masakin yourself, and it's nice to get rid of your kas, and it's important. And I would even say further, how are you going to become a kli? I mean, how is Avram Avinu going to change the world if he's not a mensch? Obviously, you have to be a mensch. But for that, I don't want to quote, but as one of the Gedolim once said, you could read Benjamin Franklin. That's what they said about the Musar movement. They could read Benjamin Franklin. So you know what happened when one of the Gedolim of the previous generation said you could read Benjamin Franklin. So they translated Benjamin Franklin's book into Hebrew and turned it into the Sefer Hamidos, which is one of the Musar Svarim. It's written by Benjamin Franklin, who the Rosh Yeshivas like to call Rabbi Yamin HaTzadik. Yeah, it's all about midos. But in other words, like all those midos and all those things, nobody's diminishing the importance of it. To me, that's the most important thing in the world. If you're not a mensch, what's the point? But that's not. Of course, you have to be a mensch. Of course, you have to be a Baal Mitzvah Aleph base. Just like you have to be healthy. But of course you have to be. But to say that's to be a proper kli to do the tachlis, that's not the tachlis. The tachlis is not to come into the world as a non-bal midos and walk out as a bal midos. That I'm not about kas. I'm not about chemon. That's not the pshat. The pshat is, according to what he's saying here, as I say, I think it's a big kiddush. The pshat is that I'm being masakin my midos as much as I can. You look at the Tomer Devara that most of us learn is the first parak of the Tomer Devara, which is about Tikkun Amidos. But the Tomer Devara is part of a big 8-volume set called Pardes Rimonim, Tomer Devara, Pardes Rimonim, which is all about Tikkun Olamos. First starts with the Spheros, and then he goes to the Olamos. That's what he does. So the first part is the Hakdama. And what he's saying here is that it could be that the Hasidim, again, I don't know if it's true, that's why I asked the Rabbi, he disagreed apparently, but that the Hasidim, or maybe those original Hasidim, were too self-emphasized in understanding that the world created me, and my purpose in this world is to be masakein me in a very holy way. So now he's saying, no, The purpose is not to be misakein me. The purpose is to be misakein Hashem's ratzon of that He puts at the beginning of every Kabbalah sefer. Look at this is why I created the world. Man messed up. Fix it. And that's what we're supposed to be waking up in the morning and saying, how do I fix it? And the Geula, by the way, we all talk about the Geula and Mashiach. All of that is all of that is Tikkun Olam, L'sakein Olam, B'malchus Shakai. All of the Geula is to be Masakin the Chet of Adam HaRishon, and we are part of this process. Avram Avinu was part of the process, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was part of the process, and we're part of the process of being Masakin Olam B'malchus Shakai, of creating a Malchus for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Period. The whole Rosh Hashanah davening is all about being Masakin Olam, the Malchus of Hashem. Yom Kippur, you're allowed to daven a little bit for yourself, but that's not the Iker. The Iker is the Malchus Hashem. So I guess that he felt, whoever this Pinchas is, or Chaim Volozhin himself felt, that people are getting carried away with the personal purity and the personal tikkun, when that's not why Hashem created. Hashem didn't bring Avram Avinu in the world to teach us how to be a mensch. By the way, do you agree with this? I don't know if I agree with it. I'm just saying.
It's not limit HaTorah though. Like, let's say, if a person picks up the Sefer and learns Musa, that's the chelik of limit HaTorah. So does it not have the avenue of Tikkun Olam at the same time?
So it happens to be in Musar. There's a lot of Divrei Torah, but it is not like the Musar itself. You'll go to some. I know what's going on. The world has a lot of Midas Tovos also, besides for Midas Rai. So let's say you're going to go to some Est conference or something like that. And you're going to learn a lot about or you see a good therapist, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself and why you're angry and why you're nasty to people and why you insult people. This is wonderful work, wonderful avodas adam. Is that our tachlis in the world? Hava mina, I would, yeah. Yeah. It's like, why isn't that my tachlis in the world? You come sort of out of shape and make yourself into a great person. Now, how are we saying no? This is just echatimsa. To do your tachlis, so like as that Gadol said, so read Benjamin Franklin. Any way you get there is fine.
I got a download while you were talking, and you hit me in the heart with what you said.
Okay.
If a person had, this was just 7 things I wrote down. Every one of them that a person would work on himself. If I put you in a corner and said, go work on your jealousy, stingy, anger, complaining, princess, whatever, it wouldn't work. I need a world. I need a world to benefit. If I get over my jealousy, I have no ayin hara for others. If I get over my stinginess, I have more tzedakah for others. If I get over my anger, I have more patience for others. So I'm not insulting, I'm complimenting others. If a woman is now more sneered, she's not stumbling others. It seems if it's possible, not dumping myself in the mikveh. I haven't come up with that one yet. Dumping myself in the mikveh. I don't know how I love it. I smell better when I come out. I don't know. But it would seem that might not be where I need to do. Roll in the snow and jump in the mikveh. But if I can get over my stinginess, it seems the world benefits.
Then you can do a tikkun olam, right? So then you can do a tikkun olam. Agreed. So we're coming to an end. It's not about me. It's about the world at large. One second.
Baruch Hashem that a stingy person came, because now he's giving out everything.
Thank you.
So we're talking.
No cost you.
We seem to be assuming that the difference is about what the ultimate purpose is. One, is it possible that they really understand both at the ultimate person? They agree. If Chassidim say "Dir b'tachtonim," it's about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not about the self. But what the Chassidim were coming to do was a Bichinas Harashah, that Torah is not really affecting the tikkun that it had in previous Torahs. So they decided that they need to have a different focus, which has risks associated with itself, but on balance,
you're making a sociological comment. I'll tell you something. I'll just tell you something personal. Mm-hmm. That I grew up learning in Hasidic yeshivas. That was my upbringing, and there was a lot of lashon hara about the misnagdim. They do a lot of they have a lot of discussion about misnagdim.
Menagdim.
Yeah. And like I would say, I mean, I'm speaking from a kid's point of view. What I heard, I'm not what they said. I don't know. What I can tell you what I heard. the Grodniks, the Briskers, the Litvaks, whatever you want to call them. They mean it all like an eye. It's like Enachanabi, like they know how to learn. And Enachanabi, like the real Lamdonim, or the Gra, or Chaim Brisker, no question about it. But look at the Gaiva. Look at where's the Midos? And I presume that at some point Rabbi Yisrael Salanter walked into the picture and said, you know what, they got a point. Where's the Midos? What's with the Gaiva? What's with the arrogance that seems to be going with it? And maybe there was. I'm not judging the previous world, but or even this one. This world is all mixed up. I don't think it's a riot to anything. I don't think there are any Hasidim or Misnagdim. I think it's all, Baruch Hashem, it's a mishmash, I think. But Haraya, we're a Litvish shul, and we have a Rebbe as a scholar in residence. We're the biggest Raya that it's all Baruch Hashem. I want to learn from Mikol Malam Dayiskalti but the point I'm making is that it could be that, as you're saying, it could be that what they saw, that the Tikkun Ha'adam is just not there. So if, look, the Gemara says already, that the purpose of Torah is to perfect a person, purify a person. So, but that's a pretty strong lashon that he's not bringing over. So what happened to the Menschlich guy? What happened to the? We know that the. You see, but on the other hand, and this is the point I want to make. The Ramchal's other hand, and he says, maybe Nefesh Hachaim mentions this even. Like, let's say a kohen gadol. Time of the Beis Hamikdash. What's his job? His job is to be Besakin the Olam, and the Olam Asilyonet. It's not, if he gets in there, he did it for himself, or to perfect himself, or to cleanse himself, or to purify himself, you're fired. You didn't do your job as a Kohen. On the other hand, let's say Zar HaKarev, another guy says up, you know what, I could do more for the Olam Asilyonet than this guy can. He's just in it for himself. By the way, the problem with the Kohanim and the Bayisheni is that they were in it for themselves. For covet money, that was the problem. And that's why it couldn't be. So a Kohen is clearly about, you are the person that was chosen to, your goal, your miyuad, to be Misakein, the Olam Asilyonim, and to make the world better, and to bring a tikkun and even a kapara for the whole Klal Yisrael. If you're not wearing the right clothes, if you're not a kohen, then you could be the greatest person in the world. You cannot volunteer to be a kohen. You can't volunteer to be a kohen. Either you're a kohen or you're not a kohen, because that is your tachlis, to be Mesak in the world. So it's in a sense, Jews that stood at Har Sinai. Hashem said at Har Sinai, Atem tiyuli mamlaches kohanim v'goy kadosh. So we're all kohanim in the sense that we were singled out from amongst the kohanim, our kohanim, the Shmuels of the world. They were chosen out from amongst the Jewish people, but the Jewish people were chosen out from amongst the goyim to be kohanim. What does it mean to be kohanim? You're going to make the tikkun. You're going to make the tikkun. The tikkun of the whole world is dependent on Bnei Avraham, Yitzchak, V'Yaakov. So my intention here in these couple of minutes was simply to just open up. I don't know who's saying what the argument is. I'm not clear. It's still not clear. But what it seems to be is, here's a new idea that there's something, even because you said what you said, David. I'm staying away from the word selfish. But there's something self about your own tikkun amidos. There's something, yes.
Risky.
Right. I'm not. Moshe Rabbeinu was completely selfless. Completely selfless. There was nothing there. That's why it was the Anav Mikol Adam. Anav Mikol Adam means that he was completely not into himself. So it's a very interesting thing that if a person would sit and go from this conference to that conference, to this therapist, to that therapist, to this 12-step group, to that 12-step group, all extremely important stuff, if that's what you need to do, all except everyone who doesn't need to help themselves and fix themselves up. But this is all tikkunei hanefesh. It's not tikkunei a ruach or a neshama. It's not. I'm not yet fulfilling my purpose in the world. I'm born as an addict, that I die as not an addict. I didn't fulfill my purpose in the world. Now do something. Now do something. Now that you've improved yourself, now you're a keli that you can do something. And what are you supposed to do? What is that something? So now we got to go for the next step, and the next step is tikkun olamos. And tikkun olamos, the way I understand it, is just not so complicated, really, because just like the Nefesh Hachaim said at the beginning, he says that. Yaakov chevel nachalos. It's like a rope. So you think that the time of the Bayesheni there was sinas chinam. Everybody was nasty and hating each other, and not just at the time of the Bayesheni, but the time of the Bayesheni also. There was sinas chinam, and therefore there was a chorban Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so it's not rocket science, If this group of Jews is killing this group of Jews, and I'll tell you something like gewaldic. Like I saw actually in a history sefer, there's little kuntras from the Seder Hadoros, Rabbi Haber, and so he says that he asks Akashi. He says Hanukkah coming up. He says it's Yadua. He brings 4 Mishnayos that the Beis Hamikdash had guards. There were guards in the Beis Hamikdash. Not everybody could walk into the Kodesh could walk in. Not everyone Kodesh Kodashim. You're allowed to walk here. You're allowed to walk there. There was a security situation there, and nobody could come in and be matired. At the time of the Yevonim, he asks, during the time of the Yevonim, it seems like they just walked in b'timu kol hashmonim. It wasn't a war. There was wars, but that it seems like they were just able to walk in and be matama the shmonim, which is an interesting chiddush in history. They just walked right in. Apparently, it was just maybe they were ready for a war, but nobody was fighting them. So he said, "How could this be?" So he says that the answer is because the Jewish people at that time, living in Yerushalayim and outside Yerushalayim, all took different political sides as to what should be. It wasn't like the Romans later, where there was like wars. They never destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, the Greeks. They were all taking sides as to should we be a little bit more secular, should we separate from themselves, all kinds. So he says they were so busy with their politics that nobody was watching the Beis Hamikdash. While they were busy politicking and arguing and debating and sitting in the Knesset and blah blah blah, the borders were all compromised, and the goyim in the meantime said, let them argue and let them talk, and we'll walk into the Beis Hamikdash and we'll be b'tamet. That was the timu kol hashmonim, and like lo and behold, the Beis Hamikdash is tameh. So I was reading this and I'm thinking that the Hasidim and the Misnagdim used to fight bitterly. They wouldn't marry each other. They wouldn't let each other live in the neighborhoods, the same neighborhood. It was terrible. I'm talking about the beginning of the whole machlokes. They were beating each other. It was physical. It was a pretty serious fight. What ended it? That's not so bad now, right? I mean, what ended it? What ended it was that in was the late 1800s, there was the first convention of the Reform movement. So while the two Chashuv Yidden are fighting, this way, that way, where's the tikkun? Is the tikkun here? Is the tikkun there? This and that. The Reform movement found nature abhors a vacuum, yeah? So the Reform movement walks in, they started a convention. That was the founding of probably, some of my best friends are Reform. But the fact of the matter is, that's where all of intermarriage came from. That's where all of assimilation came from. That gave the whole secular Jews, the mission of the Jew, the thinking of the Jew, it all changed because of this convention. And at that time, the Gedolei HaChasidus or the Gedolei Halita came together. This is history, I'm telling you. They came together and they say, Rabbi said, we have to stop worrying about we're going to lose the whole Judaism. So it reminded me of the Beis Hamikdash. of the Beis Hamikdash, like the guards down because we're busy arguing. So how did I even get here? but I just the nekuda is, the hakira is, if you will. If you're, I believe this is what's going on here. If you're working for yourself, there is a political danger. As noble as your aspirations are, if you're working, we have the right derech. We have the right derech. We know how to daven. We know how to dress. We know how to marry and how to marry our children, how to be mechanech our children. We have the right derech, and somebody else has the right derech. We have machlokes. If everybody and have huge machlokes, to the point of violence, unbelievable, to the point of violence. So the Nefesh Hachaim says at the beginning that to say that the sinas chinam was machshir of the Beis Hamikdash on this level down here, pshita. But he says, but you need to know that something much deeper happened. That what actually happened was the sinas chinam that we had, and this is all the shitasai, evaporated from the world of Asiya to the world of Yitzir to the world of Bria. And it started to, because like I always say, like the rain cloud, it evaporates, down came acid rain. What really happened was that the sinas chinam wasn't just, HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have guarded us from the sinas chinam between us. What's really happening is that you're raining down a whole new energy in the world, and that energy was Korban Beis Hamikdash. And that's why Chaim Volozhin says at the beginning of the Sefer that by the time the Romans came in, there was so much sinas chinam from the time of the Yevanim through the time of the Romans, the last 200 years of the Beis Hamikdash was so much sinas chinam that kimcha tochan. It was like they were kicking a straw house. It was nothing. It was a pushover thing, the Beis Hamikdash. It didn't have the koach that it had because it didn't have the koach from Yerushalayim Shalmala that it should have in the Yerushalayim Shalmata. This is the whole nekuda here. So stop thinking, this is his point, I think this is his point, that if we're going to all be thinking about how to be masakin ourselves, we're going to have machlokes. And that's machlokes is bad enough. But if we're the only chance we have, perhaps, the only chance we have is to make shalom. Even now, the only chance we have of making peace between Jews, I believe, is not here. You can go to meetings. You go to meetings. You can talk. You can schmooze. The chance of making peace is one world up, and one world up in the world of Yitzira. If we're all davening for the same thing, it comes down to ruach of shalom. If we're all davening for the Gula, now we got to argue about who's the Mashiach, right? But if we're all arguing for the Gula, if we're all, where can we come together? We can come together exactly where the neshamas come together before the Alma de Piruda. I tell you, let's say a person has Loyalenu Shalom Bayis problems at home. So, all right, this is not so unusual. I heard about it all day. Shalom Bayis problems. Everybody has their things, You could be masakin it like on this level, and probably should. You go to therapy, work it out, Yes, but there's another thing here, and that is that if a couple can get back to the feeling of where they were when they stood under the chuppah, and there was no politics, there was no machlokes, there was nothing that got on my nerves. There was just, wow, I'm getting married. My soulmate. And you walk away from that chuppah with such a fresh enthusiasm, and like you can conquer the whole world with the koach of the chuppah. Nobody has shalom bayis issues on the steps down from the chuppah. That's the world of neshamas. The chuppah is where there's a chibur of neshamas. Now, once, by the time you get to the next day, we're already here. So the chap here has to be, it's not an easy chap, but it's a real chap. It's like, okay, do what you need to do here. Stop using my toothbrush, for heaven's sakes. Like, you can do what you have to do over here. But it's, I don't know, I'm sorry if there's a marriage therapist or a marriage therapist. I haven't seen it onto itself have tremendous hatzlach unless they get along anyway. What right is two things, I think. First of all, personal therapy, like fix your own midos. Yes. And deeper than that, let's get back to why we are here to begin with. Why are we married? Why did we come into this world? Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu create the world? If by going back, all of a sudden you're masakin the oilam of elyonim, the oilam of neshama, the oilam of yitzira, of bria, in a whole different place of tikkun. And instead of having pirud, you have achdus. Does this make any sense to you?
Yeah. That's what he's saying. Yeah.
And I think that's what he's saying. Be careful with the pirud. And be careful with the holy pirud, because that could be the worst kind of pirud of all. The holy pirud could be the worst kind of pirud at all. And like Rabbi said, that certainly, I mean, all the Hasidim are talking l'tzarech kavaya. I'm not knocking Hasidim. I am a Hasid in hiding. But what's clear is that don't make shitas which are going to be divisive. I'm just, I'm here at Beit Shemesh, everybody's always, can you get involved with this? Can you side that? Can you do this? Can you do that? Like everybody wants, when there's election time, mamish crazy, And even was that what? Yeah. I never get involved with any of that stuff, but I always think to myself, of what criteria? Is this bringing Jews closer together, or is it making Jews further apart from each other? That's like one simple kachki balti b'Rabbi, that's the only real consideration. Am I creating inclusivity or exclusivity or separateness? What are we doing over here? What is actually taking place over here? And it's I always think to myself, people want to introduce things into the shul, into this and that. Are you dividing Jews? Or are you bringing them back? Are you bringing them together? It's just not a derech. It can't be the Ratzon Hashem. It can't be the Ratzon Hashem to do things which are going to pull us further apart. So, are there different drachim? Of course, there's many drachim, right? Haber drachim l'makom, shivim panim l'Torah. It's all 100% true. But at the end, where's the achdus? Right here. That's what we lost. So if you cut off the oilam hasalyonim, and you're left only in the oilam hatachtonim, you get tsaros. Then you have tsaros, and then you have probably every one of those different groups in the time of the Vayasheni, all were l'shem shamayim, probably. They probably thought this was the right derech, and everybody else is an apakaris and a koifer, and
So if I can put it into my language terms, at least, it's to meet at a much lower point. In other words, we think we're supposed to meet up there at Hashem in our various drachim. We're supposed to meet at a much lower point.
Lower, but not right.
But God,
here it's not shy. I tell you the story. Maybe I told you already. I'll tell you again. But, somebody was just telling me that I print books. That's what I do. I print books for a living. So I was at the printer. At the printer, you always meet very chashuva people. Somebody wrote this sefer, that sefer, chashuva Haber. So the guy is telling me a story that he's a Bayit Vegan. Yeah, I told you the story.
Yeah.
There's a Bayit Vegan. I'll tell it again. It's Kedai to. There's a Bayit Vegan, and a yeshiva bacher asks him for a ride, tramp. And he says, "Where are you going?" So he says, "I'm going Knisa Leir." So he says, "Okay, I'll take you to the Knisa Leir." So here's a chashuv yid, a Rosh Kollel, and a yeshiva bacher. What are you learning? Learning Subas, which Pedach, and Tosfos, and Pilpul, and back and forth. And their car from Bayit Vegan to Knisa Leir is about 12 minutes, 15 minutes. They're wonderful conversation. Thank you very much. This is where I got off. Knisa Leir. Hafgana was just getting started there. So the yeshiva bacher gets out of the car and he lays down in front of his car. True story. He lays down in front of his car. So he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Hafgana." So he said, "But I just gave you a ride. I just did such a chesed for you." He said, "All right, that's one thing." Shaitin him. A shita is a shita. So okay, so he gets out, he's yelling at him. Finally, one of the machrim over there said, "Let these Rosh Kollel go through. Let him go through." But this is how far things can go when you become farshitad and you forget what you're farshitad about. What do you? It's just an amazing play out which happens on some level thousands of times a day. You can get so deep into your shita. This is the Ratzon Hashem that you could so totally violate the Ratzon Hashem. This is what he's talking about. Stay away from the Olamas HaTachtonim and get into the Olamas HaYonim. Remember, put it in one sentence, remember the higher worlds. Remember the higher purpose. Remember what it's really all about. Okay.